So, dear friends, good morning. Today I have come to talk about the first three stanzas in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, which are very important. So, gradually discuss some of the slokas from the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and try to convey what my understanding about this thing. So, we will start with a short prayer. Okay, we start with a short prayer of three omkars and a prayer to Maharshi Patanjali with three om. And a prayer to Maharshi Patanjali. योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरश्च यो वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. This is a beautiful prayer from the on Maharshi Patanjali, which offers salutation to the great Rishi, the Rishi who gave the Patanjali Yoga Sutra to the world. He gave grammar and he gave Ayurveda. That's why it is said, Yogena Chittasya, who gave for our mind yoga, Yogena Chittasya, Padena Vacham. Pada or grammar for language, Padena Vacham, Malam Sharirasya, to remove the mala from our sharir, to remove the disease from our disease. Malam sharirasche yo vaidyakina, who was the Vaidya, who was a doctor. Uh, uh, with Yopa Karotam Pravaram Muninam. He was no ordinary, Maharshi Patanjali was no ordinary Muni. He was Pravaram Muninam, Shrestha Muni. That's why he's called Maharishi. प्रवरम मुनीनम पतंजलि प्रांजलि रानतोष्मी. पतंजलि को हम दोनों हाथ नमस्कार करते हुए, हम प्रांजलि अंजलि को बंद करते हुए हम उनको प्रणाम करते हैं. The great Rishi who carries the snake on his head. The snake is the symbol of troubles, agitations. He is not disturbed by agitations. Okay, he is calm, composed, his eyes closed, his hands are in folded mudra, showing humility. He has on his one hand Shankha and one hand Chakra, which symbolizes purity, which symbolizes divinity. So his eyes are closed, it's turned inside, it's totally established in yoga, and that's why he managed to give us the Yoga Sutras. So, with this We'll start first three stanzas of uh, Patanjali Yoga Sutra from the Samadhi Path. The Samadhi Path is the first chapter in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So, uh, let us first see what the slok is. The first slok is Atha Yoga Anusasanam. So, Patanjali Yoga Sutra means which is like a thread, and Patanjali has described the Yoga Sutras in very brief meaning, very little words. So he simply says, Atha Yoga Anusasanam, that yoga is a discipline. Okay, sutras are uh, brief sentences or words which convey the larger meaning. So he's telling the Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Now, what do you mean by Anusasanam? Of course, it's discipline, but Patanjali is not elaborating on that. He's just conveying the brief message. Now, whatever we can understand, um, we can say that um, it may be discipline in our actions, discipline in the way we do our yoga, discipline in the way we sleep, discipline in the way we eat, discipline in the way we wake up, time we wake up, time we do the yoga, time we do the pranayam, how much we speak, this all come in the how much we talk, okay, how much we go out into the world, how much we connect to ourselves. This is all actually a discipline. Whether we have discipline in our breathing, that's also discipline. Where our indriyas goes, where our mind goes, this is also discipline. Without this, yoga is very difficult to achieve. So that's why Patanjali says, Atha, very first sentence he says, Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, if we are going to say, it's like the constitution of yoga. We have to follow it. The more we follow it, the more we progress in yoga. That's the it. So it looks very simple, but it's very, very tough to walk on this path. So Patanjali simply says, Atha Yoga Anusasanam. It may be the Anusasana of the senses, it may be the Anusasana of the mind, it may be the Anusasana of the breathing, it may be the Anusasana of our lifestyle. So there are broader meanings we can draw, but Patanjali is just brief. Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Yoga is a discipline, and in latter part will also says, Patanjali says, yoga has to be done to get the right result in one place using a particular mat or your own mat and at a particular time. So if we keep changing the time, then the results will be not like uh, before. Okay, so it needs a total discipline, a total commitment. Okay, it's not that we do 2 days, we skip 5 days, we do this month, next month we are not doing. Sometimes we get up early, sometimes, so that will not happen. So Patanjali says, Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Next, it's very difficult to uh, describe, but it's on the mouth of every yoga student, that says Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Chitta Vritti. If you see the picture of Maharishi Patanjali, it's turned inwards. His eyes are closed. But our vision, the time we are born, it's totally gone outside. We never go inside. So the mind captures everything. It's always fluctuating. It's very difficult to restrain it even for a seconds. And Patanjali is saying yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Okay, how to restrain, how to have a control on the continuous wanderings of the mind. It uses so much energy, so much of our energy that it is very mm, difficult in all the attractions, repulsions, in all the temptations of life, in all the relationships we form, in all the outward settings. It's all outwards. But yoga goes inwards. And by going inward, it takes us to the inside world, which is quite different from the outside world, where the mind gets attracted to things. The mind becomes the boss, the mind becomes everything. But when we go inside, the mind also goes inside. The mind, in astrology, it is said that the sun represents the soul and the mind represents the mind is represented by the moon. In actual practice, also, you will see the moon has no light of its own, it reflects the sun's light. Okay, so even in yoga, the mind actually has no existence, it only mm, exists because of the world. When we turn inside, the mind turn inside, the mind gets, we keep it continuous, it gets absorbed in the soul, and then it has got no independent existence. It's just like the reflection of the soul, the mind. It has no light of its own, no existence of its own. Okay, so that's why Patanjali says yogas chitta vritti narodha. When we have really achieved the levels of the yoga, we turn inside like Maharshi Patanjali, the eyes are closed, humility arrives, and like a Shankh Chakra, he is just divine, pure, and it's total inside. All our cells vibrate inside, the mind vibrates inside. It is in communion with the soul, and so yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Third, Patanjali says tada drishtu swarupe avasthanam. Once we become conscious of the soul, once our attention turns inside from outside, okay, then Patanjali says, Tata drishtu swarupe avasthanam. Our drishti becomes concentrated inside instead of the outside. Okay, our whole attention, our whole um, mind gets absorbed in the soul. The mind loses its individual identity, its existence. It didn't have its own. We created for it. We got absorbed in the world. We got totally um, absorbed in the world. But slowly, slowly, by turning inside, we just remove the mind from its clutter, mind from its attachment, mind from its, what should I say? It's basically the attachments, its desires, those which cling on the mind. Buddha also said that it is attachment which binds us to the world. It is our own mind. In the Bhagavad Gita, it said, the mind is its own enemy, the mind is its own friend. So we can't blame anybody. It's our own mind which connects to the wrong things, and the wrong effects are created. Okay. So the Buddha says the it's only in the mind, everything, whether it is be bondage, whether it's freedom. The moment we give up the attachments, the desires, the connection, the mind becomes free. And once it's free, it understands its conscious principle. It understands its larger purview. It merges into its consciousness principle. It merges into the bigger thing. Okay. So what Patanjali says, Tata Drastu Swarupe Avastha. Swarupe means your own actual identity. Swarupe Avasthanam. Once the Chitta Vritti goes away, which is achieved through a disciplined practice of yoga. Chitta Vritti Guru, the mind turns inward, inside, and it achieves the real consciousness, the real understanding, the real knowledge, the real grip of things. It is turned out from outside to your inner journey. It's not, it's a journey. As I said, yoga is not a destination, it's a journey which we learn. The world is painful to say, but when we turn inside gradually, we can get released out of this pain. And that's what is freedom. We can create our own freedom. We can create our own bondage. It's a choice that we make ourselves. We cannot lay the blame on others. It's a total choice, a total freedom. So Maharishi Patanjali has beautifully said, Tada drashtu sarvupe avasthanam. So now let us revise once more whichever Patanjali says. First sloka he says, Atha yoga anusasanam, that yoga is a discipline. Okay. And that discipline has a very broader concept in the context of yoga, which I have explained. Next, he says yogas chitta vritti nirodha, the vrittis of the mind, the wanderings of the mind, the fluctuations of the mind. It tries to have an independent existence out of the soul. Okay, it wants to wander in the world. It gets trapped and trapped into attraction, delusion, desires, all sorts of things. It gets attracted. So yogas chitta vritti nirodha. And once through yoga, through a disciplined practice of yoga, it gets that freedom. Then it gets established in what is called tada drishtu sarupe avasthanam. It gets established in its own self. It gets established in the ananda swarupa, satta chitta ananda swarupa. Then the soul, then the mind gets freedom of its attachment, of its desires, which were clinging. All the things were clinging on the mind like particles, okay, which are attached to some gum or fevicol, as if things were attached to the mind. And now you are freeing it. So, tada drastu swarupe avasthanam. It gets established in its own real self, in its own real crux. That's called स्वरूपे. अपने आप के स्वरूप में वो अवस्थानम करने लग जाता है. But the mind has gone far. The mind has raced ahead. But yes, why Patanjali is holding the mudra like that and the eyes are closed and he has beautiful shank and chakra? Because he wants to clearly give us the message that everything is inside. The source of happiness is inside. We try to seek it in objects, in relationships, but do they really exist? In our relationships, we find that initially we think it's happiness through certain relationship, but gradually we come to know that happiness is within ourselves. The Bhagavad Gita also very clearly says that what is painful, what is like poison in the beginning, becomes amrita. This contemplation inside looks poison in the beginning, looks that we are giving up the world. But when we meditate on it, we receive that ananda, then it becomes amrita. But when we contemplate on the world, we contemplate, we go deeper into the world. No doubt, in the beginning, it looks like amrita, but all the trapping, all the attachments create later, all the responsibilities come with them, all the difficulties come with them, all the challenges come with that. So that creates the Mhm. that creates a poison also. So tada drishtu sarupe avasthanam, like Patanjali's mudra itself, he is established in his own self with eyes closed, with totally attention turned inwards, and he has won over his troubles which are created by the mind. It's experiencing freedom, and with the Shankha Chakra is giving us the message of divinity, purity, and unity. So beautiful message. He is very mudra, looks like he's established in himself. He has gained mastery over the mind. So if you want to understand yoga, just look at the picture of Maharishi Patanjali. It speaks for itself. It is real yoga. So anyway, so that was our discussion for today. So I hope I managed to offer uh, proper explanation. I tried my best, but being of limited mind and Patanjali being infinite, mm, I'm not fully capable of describing it. My limited knowledge, with my limited, with my all weaknesses of the mind, of the body, of all my defects, I can never describe Maharishi Patanjali, but I tried this and I am thankful to the Almighty. So, anyway, we'll end our session with three Omkars and a prayer again to Maharishi Patanjali. योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरश्च यो वैद्यकीना योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.